Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Shri Radha Govinda ki, Shri Radha Bhaktivedanta ki, Shri Gauri Tai ki, Shri Prabhupada ki. Today we read from Srimad Bhagavad Gita, promoted by His Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada, chapter 5, text number 4. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. Sankhya Yoga Patak Bala. Prabhadyanti na pandita. Ekam api asita samyag. Ubhyo vidanti palam. Sankhya Yoga Patak Bala. Prabhayanti na pandita. Ekam api asita samyag. Obyo Vedat Palam Sankyam Yoga Patak Bala Prabhayantina Pandita Ekam Api Asita Samyag Obyo Vedata Palam. Sankhya Yoga Patak Pala Pravayantina Panditaha Ekam Apyasita Samyag Ubayo Vidate Palam. Word for word. Sankhya, analytical study of the material world. Yoga, work in devotional service. Pratag, different. Bala, less intelligent. Prabhadanti, say. Na, never. Panditaha, the learned. Ekam, in one. Api, even. Astitaha, being situated. Samyak, complete. Ubayo, of both. Vadate, enjoys. Phalam, the result. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada. Only the ignorant speak of devotion service, karma yoga, as being different from the analytical study of the material world, Sankhya. Those who actually learn it say that he who applies himself well in one of these paths achieves the results of both. The Prabhupada's purport. The aim of the analytical study of the material world is to find the soul of existence. The soul of material world is Vishnu, or the Supreme Soul, Super Soul. Devotional service to the Lord entails service to the Super Soul. One process is to find the root of the tree, and the other is to water the root. The real student of Sankhya philosophy finds the root of the material world, Vishnu, and then, in perfect knowledge, engages himself in the service of the Lord. Therefore, in essence, there is no difference between the two because the aim of both is Vishnu. Those who do not know the ultimate end say that the purpose of the Sankhya and Karma Yoga are not the same. But one who is learned knows the unifying aim in these different processes. Om Agyanti Mandasya Gana Gana Salakaya Chakshasmane Tamina Tasmai Shri Guruve Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapita Mira Bhutale Sayam Rupakaramayam Dadati Swapadantikam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prachayani Vishesha Shunivadi Paschachayane Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaura Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. So this path of Sankhya philosophy is not for Kali Yuga. Is to analyze the material elements in the world and separate them and find out who the source of those elements is. This is explained in Lord Kapila's teachings in 3rd canto. And in Lord Kapila, he emphasizes that devotional service is, if someone is doing analytical analysis but he's not coming to the path of devotional service, it'll take him many lifetimes to achieve the goal. So, so from that point of view, the path of karma yoga is easier. Prabhupada gives an example of that in a Renunciation through Wisdom. He says, even people work in factories, they into working hard and like that. But the owners of the factories should organize prasadam distribution. So even the workers become purified of their lower tendencies and they come to a higher spiritual platform. So, in seeing it from that point of view, the path of offering everything to Krishna and taking it as His mercy will give us more quicker purification than analyzing things separately in the material nature. So, for the masses of people, this karma yoga is more practical. Sankhya yoga is for people who are like philosophers, scientists, students. They try and analyze things more in detail, but for them it takes a longer path to come to line of devotional service. In the third canto, chapter 30, text 7, Prabhupada explains in his purport, because people get into analyzing things separately in the material nature, it makes them not recognize personalism. They become impersonal. And it actually doesn't make one happy, because we are social beings, we have feelings, we have emotions, and we have to have relationships. And these people who are into this analyzing things in nature, you see how they lose feelings for others. They don't have feelings like there was one famous philosopher, Copenhagen. He was a German philosopher, and he was analyzing things in this way, of just in his own way, getting to analyzing things. And he was on a path of jnana, you could say. And because he was on a path of jnana, you could see how he had a next door neighbor who was a lady, woman. And this woman was always curious to find out what he was doing. So she looked through the keyhole in his house, to his door. And he got so disturbed by her that he threw her down the stairs. So this shows that he was locking up his emotions. Whereas for a devotee, it will be a different approach altogether. Like, there was an instance of one devotee, not living very far from here. Some person came in his house to steal things. He was a black person. He was a thief. And actually he wasn't looked after properly, so he was hungry. The devotee in the house, what he did, he said, "Sit down, I'll make you something to eat. You must be hungry." And Prabhupada actually says this in Srimad Bhagavatam, that even if a guest comes to your house, he's your enemy, you treat him nicely. So this devotee made him some prasad. And after that, the thief gave up his mentality of stealing. And he said, "Actually, no one treated me nicely like this before. I consider you like my friend now." And his devotee said, "You can come anytime, I'll give you whatever you want. You come anytime, night or day, I'll give you any. If you're hungry, I'll give you something to eat." And after this person changed. He didn't steal anything, he left nicely. So we can see the difference, like with this Copenhagen, he was like, because he locked up his emotions, he harmed the lady, and for that he had to go to court and he had to pay for that lady for the rest of his life because she gave her heavy injuries. As for a devotee, even the thief came, he purified the thief by giving him prasad. And there are many instances like that actually, how prasadam purifies people. So this is the benefit of karma yoga. Our karma yoga, because everything is offered to Krishna before we take it, it purifies everyone. So in this Srimad Bhagavatam 3:37, Prabhupada gives a little insight. He says, it is said that it is easier to maintain a great empire than to maintain a small family. Especially in these days when the influence of Kali Yuga is so strong that everyone is harassed and full of anxieties because of accepting the false presentation of Maya's family. The family we maintain is created by Maya, and it is a property reflection of the family in Krishna Loka. So Prabhupada goes further in his purport. He explains how even though people see that their families are dying and nothing is permanent here, they still continue to work hard to maintain these families. And they have this burning desire which is never satisfied. That's in everyone. Because the material world is created in a way that everything is imperfect. There's always some imperfection. So the family in the material world is a property shadow of the real family in Krishna Loka. So some people think that when you attain spiritual perfection, you become zero, or you become void. You merge into the Brahman. This is the idea of perfection. But in this purport, Prabhupada explains that even in the spiritual world, in Krishna Loka, there is houses, there is roads, there is parks, there is rivers, there is animals, there are people. But the only difference is, over there Krishna is the center. Whereas here, everyone is trying to be the center. So, in the material world, because everyone is trying to be the center, we see there is no harmony. There is disharmony, there is conflict of interests. So, but then, if we go deeper into the subject, we'll find how the material world is just 1/4 part of Krishna's creation. Three-fourths are part of the spiritual world. And in the material world, Krishna is present, but people cannot see him. Krishna manifests himself through the devotees, through his prasadam, he manifests. And Tulsi, Krishna manifests, and also he comes in his deity form. But in the material world, the problem is governed by the three modes of nature. So, goodness, passion, ignorance. So, goodness is compared to the golden chains, someone bound by golden chains. Passion is someone bound by silver chains. And ignorance is compared to someone bound by iron chains. And on top of the three modes of nature, there is three kinds of miseries. Adhyatmic, Adidevic and Adibhotic. Adhyatmic means body and mind. Someone may tell you something in work, or a friend may give you some bad language, it will affect you. The body will give some kind of problem, according to change of weather, eating wrong kind of foods. Then Adibhotic means other living entities. The boss may give you some instruction you don't like following. Someone may give you some bad language, like that, Adibhotic. And Adidevic, natural disturbances. Just like this, COVID-19 is a natural disturbance. Old age is a natural disturbance. No one looks forward to old age. In modern day society, they have this cosmic company where they try and keep people young, by skin surgery. But you can see it doesn't work. People have to die. So we can see from all these things, we can learn from these things that the more we become attached to matter, the more we suffer. Because we are spiritual beings. So, actually Krishna has created the material world to actually teach us lessons that we cannot be happy separate from Him. And His mercy is that He's left His scriptures behind for our benefit. The scriptures are there. And He sends His acharyas, His teachers, to uplift us. So, in order to advance in Krishna consciousness, we have to come to the second class platform, which is the Madhyamadikari platform. The Kanishta, who is the beginning, he only sees Krishna in the temple. He doesn't see Krishna anywhere else. And he doesn't even relate nicely to the devotees. So the Madhyamadikari, he does four things. He worships Krishna, he makes friends with devotees, he avoids the envious, and he gives mercy to the innocent. So it's very important that we come to the Madhyamadikari platform very quickly. And primarily all these stages of advancement come through hearing. The more we discuss the scriptures, we read them, this will help us to come to mode of goodness very quickly. And then from there, we can become more steady in our practices of Krishna consciousness. So the other thing is, we have to understand that these books which we are reading, which the Prabhupada translated, we shouldn't just read them like storybooks. We have to try and enter them by meditating on their writings. Try to enter the teachings and how it applies to us. So, someone may be lamenting that all the great acharyas have gone, they're no more present. They may be thinking, how can we live without their presence? But actually, in their writings, they're present in their writings. This is a unique thing about spirituality, that Krishna can be present by his omnipotency. So, how to come to that platform of conceiving that? We have to follow the scientific process. And this hearing process is very powerful. That by this hearing, all our misconceptions get cleared very fast. Because even in the material world, people hear to gain knowledge. It's not like they just learn by their own endeavor. They have to learn from hearing. But the difference in spiritual life is we learn through the self-realized teachers. So that knowledge will help us uplift our consciousness. Whereas the hearing people do in the material world, it just degrades them. That's why I said that wherever there are swans, crows will not go there. Swans will only go to clear places where there's nice environment. But devotees are compared to swans. Crows are birds that just go to pick up garbage. Non-devotees are compared to crows. So it's from the Prabhupada says survival of the fittest applies spiritually. That those who are striving on the spiritual practices and they strive to become strong, they're the ones who will survive. In the material world, no one survives, everyone gets destroyed. Just like there's a quote by Bhaktivedanta Thakur, he says, Krishna creates, he maintains and he destroys. One who chants the holy name will never be destroyed. So from this we can understand how the spiritual path is very clear. It's the way we have to practice to live our lives, to achieve our goal. And the process is very easy for those who are serious. And the other interesting thing about spiritual life is, like in the material world, to become a judge, one has to work very hard. But in the spiritual life, you take to the process, even if you're not very learned or scholarly, you take to the process and you get to be put on the position of a judge. And all the knowledge gets revealed to you. So that's the unique thing about spiritual life, that Krishna is so merciful that He's very eager to reciprocate with us. And He's very, very intimate with His devotees. It's just from our side, Krishna wants to see how serious we are to surrender to Him. And from that side, if He sees that point of view, then He's ready to reciprocate with those who are surrendering to Him. Yeah, so I had an instance when I was preaching in Leicester. many years back, there was a devotee I was preaching to. He got initiated actually. He was a blind devotee. And his wife got initiated. But the son was useless. He wasn't into spirituality. He had his own way of. The daughter was halfway in and not in. But anyway, he was seriously chanting the holy name. And he was into preaching. So he gave many books for distribution. Somehow the Krishna worked things out for him, When he left his body, things just worked out. Like the daughter got married to a devotee who came from Bombay. So she got looked after. She got initiated by Srila Shivaram Swami. So it just shows how if you surrender to Krishna, things work out for you. Okay, he's the one who's really looking after us. And this family I was preaching to, they were very simple. They weren't like very scholarly or learned. They were simple-hearted people. But they were into chanting the holy name and supporting the preaching activities of Krishna consciousness. So that's what Krishna wants. He just wants our devotion. He doesn't want anything from us. So how to gain this level of devotion is that the first thing is we have to understand who Krishna is. Then once you understand who Krishna is, then devotion comes. Like Prabhupada gives an example in one of his lectures. He says, there's so many women on the street. You can't go to any woman and say, you have to love me. You have to develop a relationship. The same way, by serving Krishna, that relation becomes manifest. And then in this way, Krishna reveals himself through many different ways. Sometimes he guides us within the heart what to do. He guides us through devotees. Sometimes he can guide us through outside people also. I had an instance like when I was doing book distribution in Oxford one time. I was on Oxford, the roads are very narrow, they're not very big. So I was on the road and the buses were coming, and one drunkard came and said, you can get knocked over. So Krishna can speak in many ways to help us, like that. Any comments or questions?
Yes, thank you for the class, Srinivas Prabhu. A question I have is about those who are impersonalists. Do they actually become impersonal in their interactions with people, or are they still personal in their relationships?
Well, he says birds of a feather flock together, isn't it? So even impersonalists, they have their own association. It's not like they can be on their own, isn't it? Yeah. They are following this Sankhya Yoga, like they're analyzing things minutely. So until they get the mercy of a devotee, they can't open out. You can say in one sense, like the general masses of people, they're affected by the impersonalist philosophy, isn't it? You could say that, right? But none of them acknowledge, they're not very open to following what Krishna wants them to do, isn't it? Like, you can take a survey, like if you went door to door, you ask many Indian people or anyone, do you believe in Bhagavad Gita? Many would say yes, right? But then if you go into detail and ask them, are you following Bhagavad Gita's teachings? How many are following? So this is it. In that sense, they're impersonal, isn't it? Because if they recognize who Krishna was, then they would be following, isn't it? But that's why Prabhupada was asked a question one time. That we see, this is Tribhangananda Prabhu, he asked Prabhupada a question in Regent's Park. That we see many people believe in Krishna, but then we see not many surrender to him. So how is that? So Prabhupada explained. Yeah, he asked his question that then we see on the other hand that people who never practice Krishna consciousness, they're fully surrendered to Krishna. So how is that? The Prabhupada explained, he said, actually to surrender to Krishna you have to be materially fatigued. If one is not materially fatigued, he cannot surrender to Krishna. So Prabhupada explained in his lecture in second canto, chapter 20 or something, explaining about the mind word philosophy. Prabhupada said, this is just another philosophy to satisfy sense gratification. This is doing in a different kind of way. Like there was one devotee, he owned his company where they cut trees, So he had a girlfriend who was an Indian, So she had a dog or something, but she was like an impersonalist in her own way, But he was a devotee, he was chanting 8 rounds, they tried to give him a chance to come to 16 rounds, but he wasn't coming. At some point they asked him to leave. But anyway, I gave him the argument. I said, you have your girlfriend. Now, are you happy to become a dog in the next life with your girlfriend? Or your girlfriend believes in impersonalist philosophy. So are you happy to become a tree with her? So so after that he gave up his girlfriend. So we can see this philosophy is not very lot of substance behind it. But even after all that, he didn't surrender. He didn't chant 16 rounds. He stuck to his views. So we can see from that point of view, he was holding on to his material attachments. So like that. So people use this philosophy for satisfying their sense gratification. But it doesn't give you much satisfaction actually. You become dissatisfied, Yeah. But then it doesn't give you full happiness. So but the other thing is yeah. Oh yeah. We have to give people a higher taste. That's the only way they can come to Krishna consciousness. So that's what we do by prasadam distribution, festivals, like that, and at some point they'll come to devotional service. But because they're trying to analyze things minutely, in their own way, there's many buts. Whereas anyone who takes to this Krishna consciousness directly, in this life they go back to Godhead.
Yes, thank you, Guru.
Hare Krishna. Antaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki or Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.